Good evening. Welcome to the April 18th meeting of the Merrimack School Board. Please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. First, I'd like to take a moment to welcome Lori Peters and congratulate you on your recent win, as well as Jenna Hardy. The first item on the agenda is the annual school board reorganization. This is the time post-election that we go ahead and nominate and elect our new officers. So first, I will entertain a motion for the chairman. Shannon?
I would like to nominate Cindy Guelyumi for chair.
Do I have a second?
I'm happy, second.
Okay, second by Jenna. Do you want to speak to it?
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad that we had this year together as I was your vice chair to be able to really work together, prepare for that succession planning as I was planning to kind of phase out and have this be my last term when I ran the last 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. So this is really a good continuity and leadership that we're going to need. We have a lot of big jobs this year. We are going to be looking for a new high school principal, a new superintendent, and with all of that on our plate, I think that you are in a good position to be able to do that job. So we appreciate your work and would appreciate if you could continue it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we will go ahead and take a vote. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, it was 4, opposed 0, and I will abstain 1. So it's 4-0-1. The next item on the reorg is to nominate the vice chair. I would like to nominate Lori Rothaus. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I wanted to first of all, nominate Lori in appreciation for her experience that she has in education over many decades, actually, as well as her desire to put students first. Any other comments? Shannon?
I will be voting against this nomination for a couple of reasons. Over the year, I've had a couple of concerns with how the board has operated, and I want to kind of go over a couple of examples. She has called for a non-public meeting and didn't show up for it. She had an issue and didn't discuss it with the superintendent before reporting to the Department of Education, causing a lot of difficulty that could have had an initial conversation in a professional way. She had no questions on the budget, and it was almost $82 million. She declined orientations when she joined the board and in prep for budgeting, and with those orientations, she could have been better prepared to serve. She had suggestions at the end of budgeting about what would be great to add to the budget book, which happened to be in the first 20 pages, so I am concerned about preparation. I'm seeing a lot of call to question, which means that she does not want other board members to have the opportunity to share their opinions before a vote is taken. And then I find that there's been a lot of times where she's spoken off term because she's not really engaged in what we're doing at the table, and it is kind of disruptive to the process. So for those reasons, I will not be supporting that nomination.
Any other comments? We can go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of Lori Rothaus as vice chair, please say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1. Abstain? 1. That carries 3-1-1. So this is the point where we will change our seats in response to that vote.
Yes, you're moving. I'm still at the regular table.
Next up is, again, an annual commitment to the Merrimack School Board Code of Ethics. What I'm going to ask is I will read through the first part. So I will get through half of the trustworthy and responsibilities. I'll have Lori read the last three, Lori Rothaus, read the last three bullets. Honor and conduct, that could be Shannon Barnes, if you could read that. Integrity of character, Jenna. And then Lori Peters, if you could read the commitment to service. As a member of the Merrimack School Board, I shall promote the best interest of the district by adhering to the following ethical standards and affix my signature to the same. Trustworthy and responsibilities. I will always remember that my first and greatest concern will be the educational welfare of the students in the Merrimack School District. I will be accountable to the public by accurately representing district policies, programs, priorities, and progress. I will be responsive to the community by seeking its involvement in district affairs and by communicating its priorities and concerns. And Lori?
I will work to ensure prudent and accountable use of district resources and never lose sight of the fiscal responsibility owed to the taxpayers of the district. I will make no personal promise or take private action in any compromise my performance or my responsibilities or those of my fellow board members. I will avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using my board position for personal gain.
Okay, honor of conduct, Shannon.
I will be honest, fair, just, and impartial in all my decisions and actions. I will encourage and respect open dialogue and listen with an open mind while working for consensus. I will respect the majority decision of the board.
Integrity of character, Jenna.
I will consistently uphold all applicable laws, rules, policies, and district procedures. I will not disclose information that is confidential by law or that will undermine the district.
And commitment to service, Lori.
I will focus my attention on fulfilling the board's responsibilities of goal setting, policy making, and evaluation. I will diligently prepare for and attend board meetings. I will avoid personal involvement in activities the board has delegated to the superintendent. I will inform myself about relevant educational issues.
Thank you very much. If you could all just sign these documents and before the end of the evening, just make sure that you pass them down to me and I will get them so they can be filed. Jenna?
I just don't seem to have a hard copy of it, so I will get it to you as
There's
soon as I
usually a
can.
spare board packet at our meetings. Do we have one tonight? Thanks.
Thank you.
Couple housekeeping items.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is guidelines for public participation. Even though we are back in person here in the Matthew Thornton room for our school board meetings, we understand that many community members still may not feel comfortable coming here in person. Therefore, we are continuing to allow public comments to continue to be sent in email, at least for the foreseeable future. To do this, you may send an email to publiccomment@sau26.org. Again, the email address is publiccomment@sau26.org. We do require your name and address for the record on such documentation. Based on the amount of information we received tonight, our goal is to always read off verbatim the comments as we receive them. If the comments become too heavy in volume, we would just have to not read public comments into testimony. It's really an all or nothing proposition. Regardless, we will put all public comments in our minutes for tonight's meeting, but we would not be able to read them tonight if we can't read all of them. Up until just recently, that had never happened, and it has only happened once. I'd just like to make sure that we address this up front in case we find ourselves in that situation. Shannon, any public comments?
There are none at this time.
Okay, I will open it up to live. Any public comments from anyone in the audience?
Seems we have some shy people here this evening. A few things, if I might. This is a business meeting, and I'm coming before you with some business.
Chuck, you have to give your name and address for the record.
Excuse me?
You have to give your name and address for the record.
Yes, Chuck
Sorry.
Mower, 4 Depot Street.
Thank you.
I'm chairman of the School District Budget Committee, and it's much larger than the school board. Very sorry to have Lori leaving the Budget Committee and advancing to the school board position, and perhaps that's one of my concerns, is that I fought very hard to have all of my members of the Budget Committee as duly elected officials to have equity around the board. And I know that hasn't happened in the past on the school board, but with a new beginning and new members, I would like to simply recommend that Lori Peters have the same official representation as any of the other board members. And I'm sure that John Probizio wouldn't mind joining Matt over here at a bigger table with a chair. Our superintendent, of course, is an ex officio member of the board, but I think it's fitting that Mrs. Peters shouldn't be sitting at a small table at the end, far away from where she might be able to hear as well as she needs to, and that she should have the distinction of having an equitable treatment at the dais. And that's, of course, just a comment on my behalf. I would also like to say, as the chairman of the Budget Committee, that the last couple of years have been difficult. We live in a complicated age. Certainly COVID has complicated things. Last year we had a lot of difficulty meeting the meeting schedule, meeting the state requirements for the conclusion of the budget and so forth. And so I'd simply like to say that I hope that we can participate in a more agreeable and facilitating scheduling of the Budget Committee regards to the budget, so that we in fact can provide for you a recommended budget that will survive the district meeting and provide for the welfare of the students of Merrimack. I'm looking for a little bit more comity, I think, from the board. Thirdly, I am a member of the 275th Planning Committee for the celebration of the birthday of our community. And one of the things that we're doing, we're providing for a lot of events in the community, but we also have established a remembrance gift for the committee, for the community, which is to raise essentially $500,000 to build an authentic covered bridge at Twin Bridge Park. Now, there are a number of good reasons for this, almost too numerous to particularize. But one of them, which will help us considerably in seeking out grant money, is to have the interaction of the school district with the 275th Planning Committee, providing an outreach for students for extended learning opportunities. I know that there are some other rather loosely knit associations that students may or may not want to participate in, but that doesn't really serve our purpose for the most innovative and best programs for our students. And it also doesn't provide for the kind of committed mechanisms in our program to actually get funding from certain organizations. So we've been unable at this point, despite some initial conversations, to establish a commitment from the school district for extended learning opportunities. For instance, if we were to approach Fidelity, for instance. One of their largest components in charitable gift giving is that there are educational components to the grant. And I only use this as an example to show you the importance of being able to establish a committed relationship with extended learning opportunities for a number of different disciplines and curriculums. And of course, we want to have our students and our young people invest in our community and invest in its history and certainly invest in its contemporary celebration. And we just can't adequately do that unless the school board establishes some official opportunity for extended learning opportunities. Time is of the essence. I understand that the transition is awkward and difficult, and times are strange, and all of those things, but we have business to do, and business requires that we conduct that business in as timely a fashion as possible. It would be helpful to our committee, it would be helpful to our students, and I would ask you to undertake that as an initiative at your first available opportunity. Thank you.
Any other public participation? Okay, we'll close that item. Next, we will go to the school board committee assignments. I prepared a draft that could be considered. If you'd like me to just go through it as I was kind of working out some ideas, if that's okay. So myself, school board chair, Lori Rothaus, school board vice chair, budget committee, Lori Peters, and I'll send this to you in email also if you don't catch it all. The alternate, Jenna Hardy, New Hampshire School Board Association, delegate, Shannon, the alternate, Cinda, the Curriculum Instruction Technology Committee, CIT, Jenna Hardy, and Lori Rothaus, same as last year. A school bus stop, Lori Peters. Professional Development Committee, Shannon Barnes. Alternate, Lori Rothaus. Planning and Building Committee, Lori Rothaus. Wellness Policy Implementation Committee, Lori Peters. Healthcare Cost Containment Committee, Lori Peters. District Parent Group, Jenna Hardy. Myself as the alternate. Communications Committee, Jenna Hardy and Lori Peters. And then I added a new one because of the time that we're in, and we can never have a quorum, outside of this table. I added a superintendent search committee. I added 2 members for that. I have myself and Jenna Hardy. Collective Bargaining, Shannon Barnes and Lori Rothaus. The MESA support staff, Collective Bargaining, Shannon Barnes and Lori Peters. Advise and Confer, myself and Jenna Hardy. And then the out-of-district committee assignments, Greater Woods Subcommittee, Shannon Barnes. Town Center Committee will leave us Matt Chevenel. Parks and Rec, Lori Rothaus. And then the alternate for that, Shannon Barnes. And then I just have a note that other board work is assigned by the organization, not the school board. Shannon Barnes is the NHSBA Board of Directors. And Andy wasn't stressed, but we don't need representation there, I believe. Shannon?
Andy is actually still chairing SRESC, and it's not tethered specifically to a school district anymore, their organizational structure, so he can continue to serve.
Okay. And then I would just add that Lori is on the 275th committee. If it's still a community involvement, that kind of ties into Parks and Rec. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't have that on the list though, but so this is just a draft. So if you have any concerns, just reach out to me. I just wanted to throw this out there, and if if there's any changes we need to make, we can tweak these, but just figured we'd start here. Okay, next up is the update on the summer programming. We'll give John Fabrizio a moment to set up. And that would be John Fabrizio and the members of the summer planning team.
So while John is setting up, and then he will introduce the members of the team, I'll just fill in for a minute by saying that, you know, as has been pointed out so often, this has been a very busy year, and no school or school district has really had the luxury of doing one thing at a time. So while we have been planning for the return of students from March 15th to as recently as today, and also trying to make sure that the education and the safety of our students and staff is number one. We also have been working very hard to plan for summer and also beginning of planning for next year. So I really want to commend John Fabrizio for the work that he's done in leading the team, some of whom you see here, but it is a large group of people. We had over 200 people on our task forces last summer representing every stripe. And once again, we have a very vigorous group of people who are working nonstop to ensure that our students are well cared for and prepared over the summer. So wanted to put that on the agenda tonight so that the board and the community could understand the work that's happening while we're still trying to, you know, successfully conclude this year. So I'll turn it to John if you're ready, and I see Heather at the wheel, and please introduce the crowd.
Thank you very much. What an absolute pleasure it is tonight to come and present with this group. They are some of the most hardworking people, of many hardworking people that we have. And last week, 2 weeks ago, we presented about really our re-envisioning. And we spent some time talking about how we have to be both forward-thinking at the same time of operating every day. And this group has come together. All last year we came together to kind of plan, and then this year we started up again, and we've had 3 consecutive Wednesday meetings together. And we have started to really design a really wide, vast program you'll see touching a lot of students over the summer. I provided the board with a grid that has all the information that you'll see tonight and a copy of the PowerPoint. I think that you'll see that this group has spent some time looking at what our students' needs are. We're going to talk a little about the process of who the students are in each of these groups, why we have the program, and then kind of our steps to begin. So I'm going to begin by inviting Deb Fournier to the mic, and she is from our summer reading program.
Right. Hello, my name is Debbie Fournier. I'm the facilitator of the summer reading program. For those of you who are new on the board, the summer reading program started in the summer of 2007. And from 2007 until 2018, we served students in kindergarten through grade 6. The summer of 2019, we added 7th grade, so we currently serve students kindergarten through 7th grade. Typically, we serve about 120 students in the program. This year, that number will probably be slightly higher depending upon what the schools recommend participate in the program. So we'll firm up that number towards the beginning of June. We'll know how many invitations we'll be sending out. The qualifications to participate in this program are students who are not meeting benchmark in literacy skills. And the way that we make that determination is through formal assessment and teacher recommendation. So those 2 items come together. They'll send us over a list, and we'll get invitations out to families to see if they're interested in participating. This year, in staying with the pandemic and knowing that families are not fully committed to sending students to school yet, we're going to offer the program 2 ways. We're going to offer it in a fully remote option, and we're going to offer an in-person model. The in-person program will run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning from 8:30 in the morning till about 11:30. We'll be housed at the middle school this year. And we will take students in. We provide literacy activities, guided reading, centers, small group work, and then we also focus on targeted skills that the teacher has sent in as a recommendation. So that summer teacher has a really great piece of information from their classroom teacher that we can provide small group or one-on-one instruction on to help boost their literacy skills. The remote option is similar, except we added a Monday component. So these students will be fully remote, participating in the summer reading program. Mondays, the teacher's entire caseload will show up for approximately an hour. That's going to give these students an opportunity to have some social interaction, an SEL lesson, just a chance to touch base with some kids that they may have seen at school. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the teacher will set up a sort of like I like to call it like a tutoring session. So they'll receive about 30 minutes each of those days with the teacher. And then again, the teacher for the summer reading program will have the information that came from the classroom teacher of what level they're working on and what specific skill they need. So we'll be offering both models for students this year. And we're in the process of gathering the information, the students' lists. Invitations will be going out the end of May. So probably early June, we'll have a good idea of how many students will be participating. And that's all I have for you right now. I can answer any questions when we're finished.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Our next group is our Title I population. Our Title I coordinator is Susan Lurs. And then along with her, we have Nicole Diggins, our language arts coordinator at the middle school, Laura Piccolo, James Mastercole Upper Elementary School, Holly LaBelzik, MES, Jeanette Cody, RFS, and Jenny Callan, TFS.
Hi, yes, I'm Susan Lurs, and I am the Title I District Coordinator and Federal Project Manager for Title I, which is a grant-funded program. And this is our second summer of doing a Title I summer program at 5 schools. This year it will again be a 6-week program. We're calling it the Digital Learning Academy because our program will be remote and it will wrap around the other programs that students can do also. We have 5 schools that participate in Title I, and the language arts coordinators who are here with me tonight would each like to share a specific set of information with you because we're trying to do now a year-round approach to helping students who are struggling with reading and math. So, next.
Hello, I'm Jenny Calnan. I'm the Language Arts Coordinator at Thornton's Ferry, and I am delighted to be here, and I can't tell you how much I love my work, how much I love working with these extraordinary women and working with all the people in Merrimack. It's been really a pleasure for me, and I love my role. And tonight, I just wanted to start by sharing a little bit about our role as it relates to a tiered system of support and how Title I fits into that system. So we're sort of in between where Debbie is in terms of core instruction and where Heather is up here, up in Tier 3. So I think what's important to know is that our role as a language arts coordinator sits, a lot of our time sits in this RTI, response to instruction model. We focus a lot of our energies in Tier 1 because our goal is to try to keep most of our students performing proficiently in this level, core instruction, so that we can try to minimize students having to move up in the tiers. With that being said, we are fortunate in that we are able to support students at all levels of instruction. So in Tier 1, a lot of what we do is to monitor not only the instruction, but the progress of all the students. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that when we talk about how we monitor that progress. But all students are accounted for and sit under our umbrella. And that's really important to know so that as I talk about the other tiers, you'll know how well we know our students, because we do. We spend a lot of time building relationships, getting to know them academically, social, emotionally. And so you'll hear more about that, I believe, from Fern later. We also sit on professional learning teams at all the grade levels, and at the middle school, they sit on content area teams. We converse with our colleagues. They bring students forward. We look at data. We look at individual needs. And if we begin to see that students are struggling, we begin to think about what can we put in place to help them, to support them. One of the great programs we have is Title I. And Title I actually sits in Tier 2. So you'll hear about how we determine which students go into Tier 2. But what we do is, as soon as we start to see that students are struggling in reading or math, if they qualify for Title I, they move into this Tier 2 intervention. It looks different from Tier 1 because it's small group instruction. Tier 1 is whole group, small group. It can be individualized. The goal is to teach kids in smaller groups and target their intervention so that it focuses on specific skills or lacking areas that they have. Let's see. The other thing we do, and one of the things we're working at, is supporting teachers who are in core instruction with their classes on how to support other students who may not qualify for Tier 2 Title I instruction. So we also work with them to try to support other students that may not be eligible for Title I. In this process, if there are other students, it could be a Title I student, it could be another student that we've tried to intervene on, they're still struggling, we collect data. And that data comes from classroom assessments, teacher observations, formative assessments. We progress monitor, we collect that data, and then we come together as a student intervention team. And we sit down with other people in the building, specialists, occupational therapy, special educator, speech and language, and the language arts coordinator, the assistant principal. We sit down and we take a look at that child and we say, what can we do? Have we done enough? Is this a child that we think we need to refer to special education? And so that is how that system works. Now, while we don't directly provide any kind of services really to the students in Tier 3, we coordinate extensively with the special ed coordinators and the case managers. Lots of times we'll find that we may have students who do not qualify for special education, but they do require a Tier 3, maybe one-to-one intensive intervention. And so we help support people who are in a position to support those students. Let's see, I'm trying to think if I left anything out. So I guess what I'd like to end with is that Title I is an amazing program led by Sue, and we spend a lot of time with our tutors. We are going to have a summer program. It doesn't mean that we're not interested in how we're supporting those other kids. What it means is that we are trying to take what you're doing in Tier 1, Debbie, with your summer program, and how can we take a look at what she's doing and take Title I and make it a little bit different because it needs to be supplemental. So I'm going to turn it over now to Laura. So thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Laura Piccolo. I'm the Language Arts Coordinator at JMUS. This is my first school board meeting with Merrimack, so thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's a phenomenal community, and the kids are just fantastic, so I'm grateful. In building on what Jenny was saying with regards to data, we do track our kids so that we can monitor whether they're making progress and also monitor if they're not. It's important for us to focus on the growth, and so to do that, we need to focus on our friends that need the most help. So when we look at grade levels 1 to 6, our universal screener is really our STAR. That's the assessment that all students take on the computer that's adaptive. And we will go over the timeline of how this works throughout the year for you. So our focus right now is to understand how we look at the numbers once they're together. So our star reading, we focus on those students that are below the 40th percentile. This is important for Title I because it doesn't mean that we're going by a particular number on someone's overall score. We're going by a percentile rank. So we really are reaching our population's neediest students. In both circles, you can see that the language arts coordinator's recommendation is also part of the process. We use a teacher recommendation, so from the classroom moving up, and in grades 1 to 6, we use the Fontes and Pinell benchmark, and that's the assessment where your students are sitting with their teacher one-on-one, could also be with me. I've helped out this year when I joined. And when a student hits below the 40th percentile, that's our first red flag for Title I, then we move into Fontes and Pinell benchmark and teacher recommendation. Those are tabulated in a, I would say, how would you say that, like a formulation? Sorry, it's late in my brain. So we have a formula and set up a selection sheet that has all of the students, and then based on their scoring in the other categories, we'll have a raw score and it's weighted so we can rank them in order of need first. The same process is held in grades 7 and 8. Instead of instead of Fontes and Pinell, we're using the grade reading assessment, which is the group reading assessment diagnostic evaluation. And the reason for the difference between Fontes and Pinell and grade is that our populations in grades 7 and 8 are much higher with their language arts teachers than they are in the lower grades where we're 1 to 24. Up there, they're more like 1 to 80 or 90. So we need to find something that will provide information that we need so we can look at 7th and 8th apples to apples and determine our selection sheet from there. Thank you.
Hi, Nicole Diggins, Language Arts Coordinator at the middle school. So Jenny kind of gave you the why behind title, and Laura did a lovely job giving you the context for what we use for data. And so my mission this evening is just to kind of give some context for the when and the how we go about that. So that's not the slide. If you, there we go, perfect, thank you, Heather. So for grades 1 through 6, typically what happens is right out of the gate, they're able to do an initial fall selection based on data that's been collected the previous spring. And so they can invite those neediest students right away and get them going. And then they'll take new data through the assessments that Laura detailed in September, October, kind of review all of that data and determine whether or not there are some other students that perhaps can be exited because they made progress over the summer, and invite new students that clearly are in need of that service as well. In January, once again, we do assessments one more time, and they collect that data, review the data, look at those selection sheets once again, invite, exit as needed. And then in March, we collect data one final time that then informs that initial selection in the fall that I described, but also that data serves two purposes, because we'll also use it to help with placement or selection for the summer reading program. And more or less the process I use at the middle school is very similar. The only thing that I have not quite perfected is that initial early fall start, because when students are coming to me from JMUs, they have very different data points than what we have in our current 7th moved into 8th grade. So it's really comparing very different numbers. So I tend to get rocking and rolling with assessment right away, and I usually have my first invites out in early October, and that has seemed to serve us pretty well. So that's our process that we use for selection.
Good evening. I'm Jeanette Cody from Reed's Ferry. I'm going to just give you a very brief history of Title I summer programming in the district. It's not new, but it's good to have an overview of where and how we started. So in 2017, that was actually at the end of 2017, that first year, which was actually my first year in the district, Sue came to me and said that we had some extra funds in Title I. And when there's extra funds in Title I at the end of the year, they get to be allocated to the neediest districts. And in order to access those funds, we had to write a grant. So my job was to think of what could we use that money for. And so we decided that we would hold a Title I summer program because we hadn't had that in the past. We really have only had Debbie's program, the summer reading program. So it had to be different from what we normally have. So we designed it to be completely digital. So with that meaning, I had to research and select a reading program that was completely online, and we selected Lexia Core 5, which is research-based, and it has efficacy research in there. So that's what we decided to use, and it's and we'll talk more about what Lexia looks like further on tonight. But just very quickly, it's an instructional program for kids. They get on and it adapts to their learning. It adapts to how they perform, and then it's provided. You get data from it, so teachers can look at the data and then they can inform their own instruction. So the other piece to the program was that it needed to be flexible. It needed to be something that families would want to do. Maybe perhaps kids couldn't get to the summer program Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So this was designed so that the in-person meetings could be mutually scheduled to be mutually agreed upon times between the tutor who was working with the student, and it was one-on-one. So the meetings took place during the mutually agreed upon times, and then it was actually really very successful. We had a lot of great feedback from students and families. So each subsequent year, we actually ended up with more grant money, and so we continued the program. Then last year, we were afforded the opportunity to expand it to the other K-6 schools, and this time we included math. So Dreambox was the online tool that we decided to go with in addition to Lexia Core 5. And then now for this year, the 2021 school year, we have another opportunity to offer Title I summer reading and the math program at all K-6 schools. This year, Title I reading is going to be added at the middle school for grade 7, and everyone is using the same program. It's Core 5, Lexia Core 5, or Power Up for the higher grades. And then every year that we've done this program, it's been refined so that we can continue to maintain flexibility, so that we can continue to offer the best instructional tools that we know of that will meet the needs of our students and our families. And I'm going to give it to Holly. She'll tell you a little bit more about what that looks like.
Hi, I'm Holly Lebelsic. I am the Language Arts Coordinator at MES. I'm very happy to be here. I also have 2 daughters at the high school, which I'm very proud that they are Merrimack students. So thank you for having me. I'm just going to talk briefly about our programs that we will be offering this summer for the Title I Digital Learning Academy. So our programs are Tier 2 interventions, and they will include the digital learning opportunity, but also direct instruction between the teacher and the student, which is critical. The digital tools and direct instruction will target student needs and support the core program in literacy that Debbie is offering to students. Students invited to Title I reading will also, or students invited to Title I reading, yes, will also be invited to the summer reading program. So parents will have the option of one program or both programs, depending on their families and their schedules, which is really exciting, I think, to offer those diverse opportunities for them. So the Title I elementary programs will include one-to-one direct Zoom instruction 1 to 2 times a week for about 30 minutes, so that would be 30 to 60 minutes. And what's great is the times are flexible and they can be mutually agreed upon between the teacher and the family. That makes them really flexible. On Lexia Core 5, students will be asked to work in the program for about 40 to 80 minutes, depending on the student's recommended level through the program. On Dreambox, which is our math platform, students are asked to complete a minimum of 5 lessons a week. And of course, we always encourage students to work on the programs as much as is allowable with their family. So at the upper elementary and the middle school, the programs will be very similar to the elementary. They will have flexible opportunities, again, to work one-on-one with the teacher and also that time working on the platform. And it will be 1 to 2 times a week for the instruction again. As Jeanette said, they will have the opportunity to work on either Lexia Core 5 or Power Up, depending on their grade level. And it will be for a minimum of 60 minutes. And DreamWalks will be very similar to the elementary program. We encourage them to work to complete about 5 lessons during the week. So those are the opportunities that we are really excited to be able to offer our Title I students this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. So the next, I'm going to speak for Sheryl Smith. She is our middle school math coordinator, and Sheryl couldn't be with us tonight, but this is her program along with Adam Carragher. They spent a lot of time together to work on this over the past months. So we're going to this year for the first time, as we expand our scope of really meeting kids where they are and giving them what they need. And giving an opportunity really is what I need in that win time, really what I need, and really doing that and trying to expand that. So we had a lot of kids that really this year didn't have the opportunities you may have in a normal school year to advance their math skills. And those students who really wanted an opportunity to prepare themselves for algebra. So we will offer Zoom instruction in order to allow incoming 7th grade students prepared to be enrolled in pre-algebra at the start of the school year. And then we'll offer Zoom instruction in order to allow our current 7th grade students to prepare for algebra in the high school as they start off. So the next slide. As I said, Sheryl Smith is our facilitator. This will be remote. And we've already began this program. So what's unique to this summer program is we started now because we had a group of kids, and Ron DeLude is over there. His daughter is actually one of our students in this program, so we have hands-on the success of what's happening so far. And what we've done, we have 84 students enrolled, and we're proud of that. That's something that people have worked hard for. Parents liked it. It was an opportunity to have some flexibility because it is remote. And again, we've learned a lot through this time, and we talked about that re-envisioning piece. And here's an opportunity we wouldn't have known about 2 years ago, how to use Zoom to instruct kids for something in addition to. So we've taken that opportunity. You'll see we're targeting a bunch of students coming forward, and we're looking forward to seeing really where this advances our students and prepares them coming into next year. This is one of the things we'll be collecting data on, looking at how many kids are successful and then what their success is as they move forward. So thank you. Ron?
Hello, I'm Ron DeLude. I am the director of the Summer Institute at Merrimack High School. And at Merrimack, we have sort of 2 programs that fall under that label, and the first is this 8.5 program. We call it that because it's all incoming 8th graders are eligible to join it, and it's halfway between, it's the summertime, so 8.5. We invite everybody because we feel it's a program that is designed to make students more comfortable in their high school, so they'll be more prepared when they get there. We actually hold it in the high school building itself. It's taught by high school teachers. And it's a program, the design of which is we're going to figure out where every student is and try to move them along somewhat. Okay? So every student is eligible for this program no matter what class they're taking the next year. Every learner is welcome, and each teacher designs the curriculum individually for each student. So, for example, I teach the math, and what I'll do is I'll sort of pre-test in the beginning, and I give them a test that spans the entirety of Algebra 1 in the topic of simplifying expressions. Once that's given, I see where every kid falls, and then we work from there. And the program is offered pass-fail, so if they're able to show some progress, then they'll get a passing grade. There's not a letter grade attached to it, so there's a little less pressure for the students. And what we do is we offer, every student can take 2 classes, so of the 4 core courses, so math, science, social studies, and English, which is not alphabetical, I should have said English first. But every student can take 2 of those. And if they're successful in it, they are able to earn a half a credit for each of those courses. They're elective credits, so it's not like you'd get a math credit or an English credit or a science. But they do earn 1 credit. They can get a little head start heading into their high school career. In addition to that, in the middle between the 2 academic courses, we also have a program run by a school counselor that works on social emotional learning, also works on things like, what is a transcript? Where are the bathrooms? Like basic things that kids worry about. And so it's an opportunity for kids to come into the school and sort of demystify it. And it makes them more comfortable going in. There's a few faces they recognize. I've found it over the years to be really a lovely experience for the kids. It's been really great. And that program is only offered in person, largely because the experience is the school. We did it last summer over Zoom, and it was great. It was still a good program. There was something a little bit lost in the translation because they weren't physically in the building. They didn't get to go run around the track and just see the physical school. So this year we're offering it in person only. So that's 8.5. Probably, yep. Credit recovery is more what people would think of as summer school, traditional summer school. So this one is for any student who took a course and for whatever reason wasn't able to earn credit in that course and wants to try to earn credit over the summer so they don't have to retake it during the next school year and they can move on. We offer, again, all 4 core subjects, and the design this year is trying to be as accessible as possible, so we're going to have teachers in the building, their rooms open, welcoming to all the students enrolled, but also the students, if they're more comfortable, can Zoom in and do it virtually. So it'll be a combination, in person and also virtual. Both of these programs run on the same schedule. We start the last week of June, and we go through August 5th. 6 weeks, 4 days a week. We take Fridays off. And that is the Summer Institute program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. So another addition, and I'm going to speak to this one again. We have, this is of recent. So as I said, we met the last 3 Wednesdays. Well, the last Wednesday of the 3 Wednesdays, I had the opportunity to meet with Meg Fowler and Sally Eagle, our 2 existing gifted and talented teachers in the district. And we have another one that says it's going to be in process now of the hiring process because we had a retirement in that program this year. So this gifted and talented program will be both in-person and remote. Again, it will run from July 5th to August 5th, 3 days a week. And it's going to be for the previously identified populations of 5 to 10 gifted and talented students. And this is an opportunity for really, again, we talked about this year, and this year was a different year. And we didn't have the robust program that, Dr. McLaughlin and his team really put together over the years when he was in my previous role. And it was one of those all hands on deck and do what you can do to create school this year. And we had to rely on these gifted and talented teachers to move into other roles to help support us. And that really was unfortunately a place where our students who were identified previously didn't get the service they would have in a typical year from us. And we're going to spend some time this summer to try to remediate some of that and work with them and give them an opportunity as they progress into next year. When we regain next year, so we're going to focus 5 through 10 over the summer. And then what's not on the slide, but I'll just speak to it, is we'll start right away in September identifying our populations in 3rd and 4th grade. And we'll kind of shift our attention there to have that population identified fairly early in the year and use our assessments to triangulate the data and be able to identify that population. So we have our next pool that will start up next year. But we figured over the summer, both our teachers agreed that they would love to get together with this group and start to offer some opportunities for them, and again, giving them what they need to move them forward.
Okay, well, I must admit to being delighted to follow such an array of services that we provide to all of our students in Merrimack. I'm going to talk, this is Heather Barker from Student Services. I'm going to talk about special education this summer and the ESY programs that we are mandated to provide students, and we're really thrilled to continue to offer those. I will be supported by Nancy Romero, who's been doing this for a long time in terms of organization, and Christine Reinert, who will take care of the secondary program. So Nancy would be the go-to person as we sort of wind up our ESY programming for parents pre-K through 6. And then Christine Reinert will be the coordinator of the summer programs for the secondary level, so the middle and high school. They would be the contact folks. They're going to be working closely. We have already begun this work over the last couple of months as the coordinating team across the district. Those folks are going to be working with the building level special education coordinators and school teams to make sure that we've already got students who've been identified throughout the year in the special education IEP team process with their families and their schools. And we will continue to do that all the way up through the end of the school year. So it is not too late if there are families who are concerned about their students who have educational programs through special education, exceptional students. They certainly can reach out to their building level special education coordinator and convene that team to talk about special education and extended school year. So ESY, the model, we will continue, as we know, the ESY program is part of the IEP. It is included in the IEP, and the team determines whether or not a student is going to need that program based on the school year performance and the concern around substantial regression. We certainly are going to look at that substantial regression, but given the fact that we've had over a year of disrupted and education that has not looked like it has in the traditional sense, we've expanded that just as we did last year to include, as I said tonight, if there are families who have children who would not historically have met that substantial regression, they don't need to be worried about that. They need to work with their school special ed team to determine what special ed services or related services we could be providing to their children. So substantial regression is one of the elements we'd look at. Another would be if the student has emerging skills, those are those breakthrough skills that we want to keep moving them along towards, or they have, as I said, had that disrupted instruction. We want to make sure that we can capitalize on the summer rather than just looking at as we want to keep them from regressing. We actually want to use that time to move some students forward if we can. So the focus on the services will be part of the regular ESY program and can be extended beyond that. So it's really thinking about making sure that we can get them where they're at and keep them from regressing. And in some cases, the IEP team may determine that they actually want to introduce new instruction and things like that. I know it says up there, but that's not the key piece. That's not the historic key piece, but we've talked about that. So we're looking at that specialized instruction that's beyond the general education that would be identified in the IEP in the goals section, and those related services that the student would need that is also identified in the IEP. And beyond that, just like last year, we're looking at that extended school year. So really thinking about the regular 5 or 6 week program that we've historically offered in Merrimack at the pre-K 6 level and then at the secondary level. Instead, we're also looking at that time that's available, that precious time in June and August, where the parents and IEP team could sit down together and look at those extra weeks to see how can we capitalize on that time to support our students who are traditionally our most underperforming students. So that's sort of the big picture behind the scenes. What we're going to have is, as I said earlier, that pre-K 6 program will look very familiar as it has in the past. Exciting news, it will be offered live this summer, but we will also offer it in a remote version for children who cannot come into school or whose families aren't comfortable yet. That's totally okay, and we're going to capitalize on that. So for families that want their student to come in, we're going to offer that July 5th to August 5th, same time frame, but again, there's that opportunity for extension the 2 weeks earlier, and then the 2 weeks after that program are opportunities for some students who really need that additional instruction or those additional related services. Those IEP teams will be making those decisions with those students' families, okay? The frequency, as it's been offered before, it's a 4-day-a-week program, okay? It'll include large group, small group, individualized instruction. Related services and therapies will be offered as part of the programs, and in some cases, the kids might participate in the program and then stay for services. So similar to last year, we will coordinate the students' programs based on individual needs and not try to make our kids fit into a program, but create programming around our students. Again, our targeted population will be our students with disabilities that qualify, so kids who have IEPs. And again, all of the services and individualized therapies will be driven by their actual IEPs. So again, this is a really important time over the next few weeks for families if they feel like the ESY program that they've already have in an IEP might need to be looked at again or amended. Convene the team as a monitoring team and take a look at that, okay? At the secondary level, Christine Reiner will continue that program. That will be offered at the high school. The pre-K 6 program, we're kind of looking at the pre-K 1, 2, hopefully a different setting, but right now all of those programs will be at the middle school because of the summer work projects. The high school will continue their program at the high school, and again, this program will be in person for students who can come in and whose families want them to participate in the live instruction, and it will be offered fully remotely for students who need to access it through that format. That program will run as it has in the past, June 28th. They actually extended a week to August 5th, so it's now a 6-week program. They're going to go 4 days a week with Friday off. They will do the same things with the one-to-one group instruction and the opportunities for kids to have therapies and related services, either as part of the instructional time or as an extension to their time. Oh, is that me? Okay. There will not, this is a bit of a bummer, there won't be the Friday field trips this year because of the COVID-related issues. So we'll look at implementing that again next year, but we wanted to keep the programs local and at our home base. Again, the targeted population are students with disabilities that qualify, and if you, again, families out there, if you think your child needs extended school year opportunities, please see your building coordinator for those, because we can certainly provide those. And again, those services would be individualized and based on the ESY that's specified and agreed on in the students' IEPs. And now, Fern is going to talk about our summer SEL support.
Been trying to figure out my glasses. Thanks, Jenny. Thank you so much for having us all here tonight. And I think I'm the last on this long list of amazing opportunities that are being offered to our students. Last summer, we offered some social emotional support to students who, during this pandemic, we knew we had to respond by continuing to create connection and relationships and continuity for students. And so this summer we face the same. We want to make sure that we are thinking very thoroughly about the whole child. And so we asked ourselves, what SEL supports would benefit students this summer in this post-pandemic context? And are there supports we could offer that would help students with the transition back in the fall, especially those who have been fully remote? That has come up a lot for our in our schools and families bringing forward that their kids are really in that those kids in particular are really have a lot of anxiety about returning and what that will mean. So We know that we want to continue offering this, and that we also see this as an opportunity, again, to re-envision how we respond to kids and what we include when we think of summer supports, what we include, and make sure that we're including the support of those, the castle wheel that we've talked about here before, those social emotional skill building that we know are so crucial to success in school and beyond. So right now, we're in the process of identifying the scope of the needs by turning to the schools themselves, asking administrators and teachers to work with teachers and the helpers in each school to identify what students might benefit, and working with our helper teams across the district to say, what can we offer, and trying to work with them. We know that we'd like to support transitions, provide continuity of connection and relationship. Last year, we really benefited by allowing people to co-treat. So if there was, for instance, a school counselor working with a special educator, school counselor to school counselor, working with very specific transitional supports for students. We want to make sure, and this year in particular, we make sure we welcome new students. There have been some new students who haven't spent a lot of time with us this year, so maybe going back, circling back to them and helping them reestablish themselves. Maybe they really didn't get grounded and feeling really a part of the Merrimack School District this year. So making sure we circle back to them. And last year, we really benefited from using a program called Presence Learning. The helpers had a chance to use that to support students. So that will be something that we revisit and provide our school counselors or behavior specialists who may be supporting. We're thinking about doing things like anxiety groups, so psychoeducational groups that might help kids learn coping strategies to deal with stress and anxiety as it emerges, as well as on the other end of the spectrum, just a check-in. How are you doing each week? Just a check-in to keep that continuity, that sense of connection and belonging that when it's kind of severed for a whole summer can make it really hard to restart for those kids with really sort of fragile social emotional skills. And especially because this pandemic has taken a toll, we know, on the social emotional well-being of students. I think that might be my only slide.
And actually, I'd like to add the beauty of the summer SEL program goals. Last year, we really focused on this because we were in the midst of the pandemic. And as we've listened to our parents in the community, Fern has been an active member on that team, meeting on Tuesdays with me with families, just really acknowledging how difficult this has been for some kids and making sure the beauty of this is for all kids. So all students, including students who have IEPs, they have access to these opportunities where you have that transition goals are being worked on with the co-treating, where Fern talked about the counselor of the sending school transitioning a student to a new counselor during the summer. We hadn't done that previously. We did that last year because we had to, because we were in the midst of a pandemic and kids couldn't go into school and meet their teachers or meet the people that were going to work with them. So we really capitalized on having paraeducators, for example, who were from the sending school work with that child over the summer in the remote world with the new team that was going to receive that student. And we're going to capitalize on those things we learned through the pandemic to support all of our students who have this area of need. And really, there are so many children. Things that aren't even on here that are under construction is looking at so these are each week when we meet as a group with John and the team, we're looking at all of these pieces, the academic well-being of children, the behavioral well-being of children, that social emotional, that whole child. And each week we start thinking about another branch that could be part of the summer programming that last year we might have thought about because of the pandemic, but now we're really thinking about it because it's just really good practice. Thinking about things like our PASS kids, our ESOL kids, the gifted and talented program that John and that team put together. So there's a lot of really cool things that are happening right now in Merrimack. So I'm really pleased and proud to be part of the team. I'm going to let John end it.
So our last slide, Heather.
Yep.
Is really to make summer count. And we want to make summer count, and we do for everyone. At this point, we really we lend to the board and the opinion of the board right now too, and really are curious about kind of what you've heard tonight, what further questions you may have, because it's going to help us only in our planning if we can hear more from kind of others around this.
Questions, Lori?
So I'm going to start with the high school, if I can start with Ron. So I'd like to point out that Ron and Nicole are both former students of mine, and so I'm very proud of them. So let's talk about course recovery versus competence recovery.
Okay.
So is there a program for, like, if a student has an English class and they didn't quite get the writing competency, is there something to fill the competency that we're doing also with the credit recovery?
Yeah, yes, that's been part of the credit recovery program in the past. The issue this year is we didn't really do competencies in the same way, so it would be different this year. But certainly if a student missed a competency in the prior year when we were following the same competencies, we could do the same thing. What they would do is they would sign up for basically just to recover that one competency, and then we would give them just that piece that they were missing, and once they were able to demonstrate that they met the competency, then they would be all set.
And how does that grade go? So if they miss one competency, what does that look like?
Well, we would treat it the same way as if they had met competency during the school year. So you would overwrite the grade instead of, basically it would end with an asterisk, and then you would do it with an MC.
Okay, and okay. Yep. And how about, like, if it's not one of the core courses, like say someone failed a is there any place that a student could get that extra learning?
At this point, not during the summer. We do offer Evening Academy. We have some flexibility with what we can offer then, but that's at the same time as the school year after school.
Okay.
But in terms of during the summer, right now, we don't have that. No.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board? Let's see, Lori.
Since Ms. Smith's not here, I'll have to ask John this question. I think this is awesome. I love the opportunities we have in the summer for our kids and the flexibility, but there was one area that there's a little less flexibility that concerns me. I am a high school math teacher, and I know there are a lot of students who are just zoomed out. They're tired of being on Zoom. They're tired of doing math on Zoom. And I noticed that the math, particularly the pre-algebra program, is all on Zoom. Is there any flexibility in allowing students to have one-on-one in-person instruction that would like to have that?
I can certainly ask that question. And I think, Nicole, you could talk to this too a little bit about the middle school and why remote with the middle school. And I think it's, I'll let Nicole speak to it, and then I'll certainly add after that.
Yes, well, so last year, this is actually the first time that we entertained the summer reading program at the 7th grade level. Just as a quick caveat, we don't focus we try to direct our 8th graders towards 8.5 because we think that's the most appropriate placement for them, so it really left those 7th graders without having those summer service. So last year was the first year that we introduced the summer reading program to our 7th graders, and at the time there was no other option but to do the fully remote, but we had 11 students sign up, which was shocking and very, very exciting. Title in and of itself at the middle school is a very, very tough sell. Just all the way around. There's, I think, for a lot of students, the kind of the stigma, for the families, that stigma. And so and they also want sometimes to be able to be participating in that hatchet time, which is very valuable, or, sometimes there's a conflict. We try to work around it with world language. So all of those factors make that Title I a really tough thing to get our students to really engage with. And so when we had such a great turnout with the fully remote program that was offered for summer reading, we thought this might just be the right way to go about it for our middle school students because it allows them that flexibility. The summer reading program in particular was being housed at an elementary school, so to have our seventh grade students going into an elementary setting was not helping our cause. So having this environment, and it's that shortened period of time, it doesn't interrupt their day as much. And they can, sometimes the tutors can be a little bit flexible and allow them to sleep in a little bit later and things like that. That just really seemed to be the best way to target that population. So we are kind of continuing with that trend with both Title I reading, summer reading, and then the algebra programs as well.
And I do understand that. I mean, and I understand how seventh graders' minds work. I'm just thinking maybe it should be a back burner opportunity, because doing math online, even with the best tools, Wacom boards, all those things, is still not the same as doing it in person. And I could see, there being a student who just needs, it's the same material you're covering online and you're working with them, and it's being together that makes all the difference to grasping a concept.
No, but I can certainly bring that back. And we just, like, we've had 85 students participate online, and that was really the preference and the choice. And it's an amazing turnout. It really is something starting up new. So I think that I certainly can bring it back to Sheryl and say, is there an opportunity for that? And we have space, we have people, there's people in the building every day. It's not a question of that. It was the targeted population, from our experience, has chosen the summer to work online versus coming in. And that's why we made the decision to do it the way we were. We can certainly look and see how we can accommodate that.
And I just wanted to make a related comment because I think it's a really good point, and there's a ton of work. This is fantastic. So this is really great stuff, and there's a lot of things for all different students in this. This is fantastic. But just on this particular point, which is the in-person instruction for students who might need it right now, like not in the summer, did we have the ability to, Friday afternoons, staff with, our, expert teachers in a variety of subject areas, so kids can come in and get that live help, or maybe Saturday mornings or something like that, because I know I don't talk about my kids a lot, but, they want to get out of the house, and they're getting, especially at this point in the year, getting Zoom fatigued, and so it's, how do we get them across the finish line before it's too late, I guess.
So hear that completely. I would just, again, I would just remind the board something that, we've talked a lot about, but it's worth repeating, and that is that some of the things that you're talking about require staff. This may or may not be an example of that, but, we have, any school district in the state of New Hampshire has struggled with finding and maintaining staff during this time for a variety of reasons, not least that staff themselves have been taxed quite a bit. And so it's not for lack of trying or lack of effort, and I think our teachers have proven over and over again their willingness to go above and beyond and do just about everything. But sometimes, I think that we have to bear in mind that the issue of the physical availability of staff for a variety of reasons may impede, on occasion, the ability in the short term to achieve some of the things that we're talking about. Not using it as an excuse, but I think it's another factor that needs to be accounted for in the midst of all of the planning. So that's just something I'd share.
Is it regards to this topic, Lori? Okay, so then did you have one regarding this topic?
No,
okay.
It's on
Okay, so Lori on this topic, and then Shannon's next.
So going to what Cinda said, if it would be possible, some of the things that are happening in the school district I'm in is they have tutors that they're paying. So teachers meet on Mondays and Thursdays. There's administrators, there's teachers, but they pay them to be in a computer room, and the kids bring their work, and it's just the system. So it's not like it's someone who's signing up to do that extra work, and they're getting paid for that extra work, because it is above what you said, what we're asking them to do every single day. But we've had some success with that.
Shannon?
Well, on that topic, I would have to say that you're probably going to find out as you're signing up students, their interest to be on campus. So you can probably give some data back at a future date as well. So just something to consider. I had questions around, because I think some of these programs are new, some of these programs are continuing. And I know that there are federal funds being made available to really, close the gap, the learning gap nationwide. So federal funds, not, and the question I have is, are some of these programs able to use those federal funds? Are you able to get access to them? Because I know the district has also had a tangible struggle on getting access to those funds because they have to filter through the state. So I don't know if any of that has been, if you've been successful in finding ways to supplement what you've done for funding.
So I'll have Heather speak to that in one second. I'll just
Sure.
say that most of what you've heard tonight is not new. We've been doing, as you know, we've
Right.
been doing this for a long time and always funded through, some title grants.
Sure.
And supported by the budget. The program that Ron talked about tonight, 8.5, used to be, isn't it, Springboard to Success. You might, if you've been around long enough, you might remember that. Springboard to Success was always, embedded in the budget. That also included, that same line included summer reading that Joanne Green years ago used to oversee, that now Debbie Fournier has. So almost everything you've heard tonight has been funded the way it has always been funded with, I don't think we've had to rely very much on federal COVID funds for any of the things that you've heard tonight. And that's a credit to the people managing that they've been able to create what you've seen tonight using the resources, that we have always had. We didn't ask for any increases this year from the community. So Heather, go ahead.
I was simply going to, I'm on, yep. I was simply going to say, to answer that question, Shannon, we did increase our budget, as you know, budget liaison. This year, we increased it significantly for the ESY because we knew how important that extension was last year. And we, as you've heard, just like last year, we are going to take the children whose families, they want them to come get these services. We're going to do that. Having said that, if and when those funds would become available, obviously that money, right, that money could then be used for that. And now that other money that we had set aside wouldn't have to be used in that way.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's a great
that was kind of the genesis of my
opportunity.
question.
Yes.
Plus social and emotional,
Yes,
which is obviously a new
exactly.
program and,
Exactly.
needs additional
Yes.
funds. So,
Yes,
yeah,
and
it's
we
all
used
about
student services last year to fund all of that. So all of that would do that. And in fact, for like 8.5 and the credit recovery, special education is behind the scenes in those programs as well, supporting students in those, providing paraeducators, so that students have full access to those programs as well. So that would be what I would be looking to do when those funds would become available, would be, this is a wonderful opportunity then to return that money that the taxpayers gave us to expand those programs, because we would have federal money to pay for them instead.
Sounds great. That's pretty much the genesis of my question. But again, there's some supplemental programming, which I'm very excited about. This is very comprehensive. But really, again, you don't have your enrollments yet. And I think that, will that funding, if there is a delta, help you to cushion that? But and my real question is, are you able to get access to it? Are they giving you the conduit to be able to request those funds? Because I know that's, come from a number of ways, when it comes to be COVID-related funding.
Is that rhetorical, or do you?
If you have it, I mean, it's
well,
great.
I would just tell you that,
I'm going
to glance over to Matt, who I'm sure can, what I would tell you is nothing is different than the way we got told we could have $750,000 on like November 12th and had to spend it 6 weeks later.
Right.
So that is the anathema of good planning. We, I think, did an excellent job of spending that money, didn't return a cent, and did it so that we could, start the school year the way the board had asked, by maintaining safety but increasing contact time, and we did that through the use of the VDO 360 tool that was purchased 5 through 12. But in general, the history has been not great in terms of helping districts forecast what monies are available and giving you a reasonable amount of time to spend it. Anybody who's worried about fiscal issues ought to be concerned about providing districts a certain amount of money and then giving them almost zero time to meaningfully spend it. So we did, but that's a rabbit out of a hat that I don't think should be expected to be done too often.
Gotcha. No, and honestly, especially when it comes to the program recovery, the academic recovery funds. And I know that's really coming out, and it's pretty fresh money, and it's coming from, I think, a fresh approach. So I'm hopeful. I'm interested to see how you're able to navigate and access that to maximize what we can give back to the taxpayer. So that was really the genesis of my question.
Thank you.
So thank you for all your work on that. So,
Lori?
So I was just going to ask, so how much money are we projecting that we're going to get? Or did we already get it?
I don't know.
Well, we got $329,000 with ESSER 1. We got $735 with the 6-week notice to spend by the end of December. And then we have $639,000 for ESSER 2, of which we dug into at least around $150,000 of that when the governor pulled the April 19th date out of the rabbit's hat. And we had to buy additional plexi for the middle school, for the upper elementary school, for the high school. You notice if you're going around town, you see tents at a lot of locations. We wanted to expand the classroom space for kids because of social distancing. And so we dug into that. And then from budget talks last year, there was supposed to be, of the money we have left in ESSER 2, $450,000 was suggested to be allotted to become one-to-one as far as devices go. So that takes care of ESSER 2. I hear there's ESSER 3 coming out, but I know not what that amount is, and I know not when it will be available to us.
Makes planning very exciting.
Yes. We live on the edge in Merrimack.
And we actually don't know that there is funds coming for special education as well, which is probably why you were asking me, Shannon. We don't know what that allocation will be at this time, so we don't know. But I would assume that what we get back, we would give back, because we've already got the money allocated to spend.
Mark?
So if I could just take a point of personal privilege. This may be, I'm sure I'll see all of you privately, but this may be the last time at a board meeting that I have a chance to address this group, except for Laura, which I'm very sorry about. I know you all very well, and I've worked with you for a long time, and I've heard wonderful things, and I wish that I'd had a chance to work with you. But I really just wanted to say tonight, what you see here tonight is just a small example of the excellence that is embedded throughout this district. Because what you heard tonight is all about the future and all about next, while every day these people and everybody like them who they support, all 350 professional staff and 800 staff, are also trying to, have successful days for students now. But none of them have said, oh, we have to wait, just let me get through the day. We have to wait and plan for later. So I just, it really has been a joy to get to know all of you and to work with you. And I'm just that's a little bit overbearing to say proud. I guess, who am I to be proud of you? But I am. I am, because I just know how hard you've worked. And I know how hard you have worked to support your peers and your colleagues to help our students be successful and feel connected, and in the midst of really the hardest time in education in 100 years. And so I just want to thank you. And I think what the board and the community saw tonight is dedication that you wouldn't likely to see surpassed anywhere else. So it's my opportunity to say thank you to you all, and I really appreciate all that you've done and all that you're doing for students, because they're going to have a great summer because of you all. So thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I'd also like to,
Cindy,
Heather?
could I just add, because this actually just struck me tonight when you brought that up, Lori, the question about the in-person services. I think it's really important as we move forward, thinking about summer, that we remind ourselves whether it's making sure that we offer some type of in-person opportunity. We're also offering that opportunity for remote for any of the programs that we're offering, because we are still in a pandemic and there are children who that would be a barrier one way or the other for a child or family to actually access the services. So I hope our team can really rethink that to make sure that every one of the things that we're offering has some element to that. I'm sure John and I can work on that. So I really appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. And for those of you that are here for your first time, welcome. And, obviously this is a lot of work while you've been, doing all of the stuff that you need to get done for this year right now. And this is certainly time out of your night and your evenings with your families. So thanks for coming and thanks for your hard work.
Thank you.
Next up is the process for selection of new superintendent. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and we will do it best together. We will do it best working together. And when I say we, I'm also talking about not just this board. I mean all of us. We are one community, one holistic community. We are all healing from a horrible pandemic that has left no one, no organization, no community, no administrator, teacher, board member, staff, family, or child untouched. One critical next step for this district is the superintendent selection process, and time is of the essence. I believe, again, the best results will come when we join together and we work together. At our last meeting, I spoke about the board's intent to move forward in the search with community and stakeholder involvement. I would like, essentially, to ask Matt to collect and procure some proposals that will allow us to quickly move forward with professional support, essentially to support a solid and fair process that will allow the selection to conclude as we coalesce around a shared vision and get community input and all stakeholder input. So there's really no motion that we need to take on this tonight, but I just want to make sure that we don't have any concerns going forward in that way. Some of the information he already has, and then what we would do is we'll have to call an emergency board meeting as soon as we can get us together. We don't have 2 weeks to wait to start to make some next steps, because time is really of the essence with this. So unless you have any objections, so proceed that way, and I'll coordinate schedules offline with you all, and we'll set up a follow-up meeting. Okay? The next item is the approval of school board minutes. First up is the March 30th, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion? Made by Shannon, second by Lori. Any updates, changes, comments? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstain? 1. That carries 401. April 1, 2021 non-public minutes. Do I have a made by Shannon, second by Lori? Any comments? No. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? None? Abstain? 1. That carries 401. The April 5, 2021 minutes made by Lori, second by Shannon. Any comments or updates? I see none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstain? 1. 401 for April 5. And then the April 9th, 2021 non-public minutes. Do I have a motion? Made by Shannon, second by Lori. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstain? 1. 401 on that one. Next up is the consent agenda for John Fabrizio.
Thank you. Tonight we have professional staff resignations and retirements. Kathy Marvell, special education teacher at Merrimack High School. Carolyn Rodham, art teacher, Merrimack High School. And Morgan Messina, kindergarten teacher at Thorntons Ferry Elementary School.
Do I have a motion? Motion made by Shannon, second by Jenna. Would you like to speak to it, Shannon?
We just want to send our thanks to the Wolf family, who's been so supportive of so many areas of our community, and this is just one more example of how Laura's World Fund has really, honored one of our students who passed, their daughter Laura. So this is a great tribute, and we're glad to take it in her memory. So thank you.
I agree, they're an amazing family. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. That carries 500. Next is other. Any correspondence to come before the board? Shannon?
I had one from a parent who was asking about masks, and that I just redirected them to the website as far as how masks would be with the governor's return to school and lifting the mask mandate in the same weekend.
Jenna?
I also had a parent reach out to me regarding masks. We had a quick conversation, and that was it. Also pointed them to the information already provided. I also had a conversation with a parent who was concerned about security on district devices, and I pointed her towards Nancy Rose.
Thank you. Did you have any?
I had one too. Melanie Curran reached out to me. She has some concerns about the varsity baseball program.
Thank you. And I had one regarding the mass that I brought to the attention of Superintendent McLaughlin, who responded to that parent. Any comments? Seeing none. New business? I just had just a couple things under new business for consideration for the next meeting, which is to perhaps have our graduation advisor to come before us and speak to the community about plans and, anything we know about graduation at this point. I'm starting to, hear some rumblings about that in the community. Secondly, the other thing would be kind of along the same lines of tonight, which is really, what we will do throughout the rest of the year, particularly as it relates to our graduation rates and what we're doing to help those students kind of cross over that line, particularly the seniors. Any other new business? Yes, one other thing, which is regarding, Jenna had an item.
Oh, yeah.
I told her that I would.
Sorry, I forgot where it was supposed to be. Yeah, just following up about our student rep for the school board. Did we find out anything? Do we know whether they can begin attending? Do we know? Can we move on that?
Yeah, apparently an election was held in February. It had been delayed because of COVID, and I'll connect with Mrs. Putney and Cinda and see if she's available to be here at the next meeting.
Awesome. Thanks.
Definitely welcome. We
Yeah.
love the student input. Thank you. Committee reports. Any committee reports? Lori?
I can just touch really briefly on the 275th. They're moving forward with fundraising, and again, like Mr. Mower said, they're really hoping to be able to get students from the middle school through the high school involved, and they're also looking to get elementary students involved with some of the programs with writing and coloring books and things like that, but trying to get kids to community service. There's a history portion, public speaking, because they're hoping to get high school students to be able to go to the Rotary Club and do the presentations, and so those are all things that they're hoping we'll be able to connect to do.
Any other, Jenna?
So the Healthcare Cost Containment Committee meeting got canceled this week, so we didn't have the meeting. But I did want to report that the Healthcare Cost Containment Committee is still doing the raffles for the $25 Shaw's gift card every week as part of those that health trust money to go to really just kind of support the mental health of teachers, and then $25 Shaw's gift cards aren't, is not anything enormous, but it's a little something to say thank you very much. And so there's 5 winners every week from across the district, and I love getting those emails actually every week. So just to let you know that it's rolling out. It's been happening over the last month, and it's been great.
Thanks, Jenna. Any others? Okay, public comments on agenda items. Shannon, do we have any?
We do not.
And I'll open it up to the audience. Any public comments? Seeing none, we will go ahead and sign the manifest, and I'll take a motion to go into non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, A, B, and C. Made by Shannon, second by Jenna. Lori, how do you vote?
Yes.
Shannon?
In favor.
Jenna?
In favor.
And Lori?
In favor.
And I vote in favor. That carries 500. Thank you and good night.